Afternoon to some, good evening to others, and welcome to the first CIT Tech Talk. Welcome to our College of Bishops, General Officers, Judicial Council members, Connectional Officers, Connectional members, and friends. I'm Teresa Duhart, your newly elected General Secretary and Chief Information Officer of the General Department of Communication and Information Technology. Our CIT Tech Talk, the first one today, will be a series of monthly events featuring guest presenters and speakers on interesting and worthwhile communication and IT topics to empower our members at all connectional levels. Let me take this opportunity to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy Sunday to attend today's Tech Talk. This event was originally scheduled to be held yesterday and was rescheduled to today in respect for the funeral services of our late and beloved Bishop Godwin T. Umuete. And certainly our thoughts and prayers go out to the Umuete family, Mrs. Elizabeth Umuete, along with delegates traveling from our CME church. We express traveling grace to them as they visit Nigeria. Also, I'd like to take time to thank Dr. Skip Mason for collaborating with me on the rescheduling of using his time for CME 151 conversations, which are on hiatus anyway for our first Tech Talk. So today's event is entitled Intergenerational Connections Through Technology, which will provide information on purposeful bringing together of different generations in our churches through technology. We have many special guests today, from bishops, presiding elders, pastors, young adults, and youth that will address connecting the generations through technology and share their knowledge and tips. Today's guests are Bishop Thomas L. Brown Sr., the vice chair of the General Department of Communication and Information Technology. My presiding prelate of the 9th Episcopal District, Bishop Charlie Haynes Jr. Presiding Elder, Reverend Dr. Andre Lloyd of the Moultrie, McRae, Brunswick District in the 6th Episcopal District. The Reverend Cameron Adams and Zach Mullins, pastors in the 7th Episcopal District. Ms. Toya McQueen of the 4th Episcopal District and the Secretary of the Connectional Young Adult Ministry. The Reverend Andrea Brayboy of the 9th Episcopal District, who serves as the Episcopal District's administrator and social media coordinator. And our own Reverend Cameron Kuykendall, the youth vice president or VP from the 1st Episcopal District of the Connectional Youth Ministry. I would like to take the time to thank Bishop James B. Walker, who wanted to be here today, and he is in Africa, who attended the funeral services for Bishop Umuete. He and Reverend Courtney Adams. In fact, we had a little bit of miscommunication on my behalf because I erred and gave him September 28th instead of August 28th. And he thought he had another month, but he informed us to move forward, and that's what we're doing today. So let's begin our CIT Tech Talk. If you have any questions for the presenters, please feel free to list them in the Zoom chat if you're on Zoom, or post it on Facebook, and we'll do our best to answer them during this session and or afterwards. And with us today, monitoring the chat and Facebook post, are Mrs. Sharon Doss, our CIT Business Administrator from the 3rd Episcopal District, and Reverend Pansy Washington, Executive Assistant to Bishop Thomas L. Brown Sr. of the 6th Episcopal District, and who both head up tech teams in their respective Episcopal District. Now let's begin. I don't see Bishop Walker here, so I will move forward with introducing the chair, the vice chair of the General Department of Communication and Information Technology, the presiding prelate of the 6th Episcopal District, none other than Bishop Thomas L. Brown, Sr.
Thank you very much, Dr. Duhart, and may I join the CME Church in congratulating you on this new department, the General Department of Communication and Technology for the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. And let me also thank you for your many years of service and leadership in this very unique and timely technology time for the church. And I'm pleased to join you and the panelists here this afternoon, the evening for me. And certainly on behalf of our chair, Bishop Walker, I greet each of you and thank you for your commitment to this ministry. Now, basically, I'm going to just say a few words because technically I don't think of myself as a panelist. I'm just one who's going to help share in this celebration. But I'm not one who's going to speak that much about technology. But I will say that this digital age poses for the church peculiar challenges and opportunities for pastors and local churches in particular, as we seek to do ministry beyond just one generation, to be intergenerationally connected. This technology descent upon the church and upon our age certainly has given us peculiar opportunities to reach people that we wouldn't otherwise reach. And during this pandemic, it has allowed us to continue our ministries in many areas where we would not be able to do so without this kind of technology. I would think that for the afternoon or evening, I pose this one question before us, and the panelists will go at it at different ways. How can the way we use technology change or shape the way we do ministry in this century? As we face the many, many challenges we have, it seems to me that we have a great opportunity and responsibility to use this digital age to help us become more peculiarly engaged across the ages and across generational divides, that we might reach not only our own people, but might bring the gospel and the teaching of the faith to the world around us. And many of us already doing that with our Zooms and with our various platforms that we're using in local churches. So Dr. Duhart, thank you for this opportunity. Again, thank you for your work. And I look forward to hearing the panelists share here this afternoon and evening. And let's see, am I supposed to be introducing someone right now?
Bishop Charlie Haynes Jr.
Yes. Thank you so very much. I am pleased to present one of the four newest bishops of the Christian Methodist Church, elected this past General Conference in Cincinnati. I believe number 66 is that number. And we're pleased to share this ministry with the likes of Bishop Charlie Haynes Jr. He serves as the prelate of the 9th Episcopal District, and we're all aware of his extensive ministry, especially the BB Church in Oakland, and his worldwide reach in terms of preaching the gospel and sharing the faith. And so it's my pleasure to present to you Bishop Charlie Haynes.
Again, Bishop Thomas L. Brown, Sr., thank you so much for that introduction. I at least owe you lunch at your local cafe. We bless God for you and Dr. Louise Baker Brown and all of what you mean to me personally and to the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. We say to this brandly new minted General Officer, Dr. Teresa Duhart, thank you for the opportunity to share with you. To Bishop James Bernard Walker in his absence as chair, and to this gracious host of panelists that we will hear, which are really our bright stars that make up the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. I want to share at this time my screen, I want to take the time that we have with you to operate from this thought process, if you will, doing ministry and excellence in the context of communication, information, and technology in an urban setting, pursuing greatness from the pulpit and the pews. And I want to say as a caveat, if you will, that the information that we will share will work not only in the urban setting, but also in the rural setting. I want to also encourage everyone that has been on or had ministry today, serves several services today. God bless you. I know many of our pastors are experiencing what we call preacher hangover at this time, but if you hang in here with us, we'll be able to share some nuggets that hopefully will bless you and bless your ministry. I want to share this example, if you will, before I get back there. Let me see if I can do it correctly. There we go. So if you see this image on your screen, this image is dear to me because it's often the story that's behind it, shares in many respects where we are in the context of ministry and church. If you don't recognize this, this is a picture of the infamous Titanic. And it's the infamous Titanic that was designed, if you will, not to sink. And if we were in a live, in-person setting, I will ask you questions today. And questions would be around how did the Titanic sink? And many people come up with multiple types of answers. Many answers is like the steel that was made for this boat that should have been impenetrable ended up breaking or failing. Some said it was because of the captain. Some said it was because of the crew. But the reality is, the reason that this ship sank is very simple. One day, one of the crew members who was in the galley, who was scheduled to work, was actually scheduled off. As he was scheduled off, he left the actual Titanic. As he left it, he went home. In his pockets was the keys to the door that changed, that opened up the door, that held the binoculars that the captain used to see and guide the rest of the course for the Titanic. He went home. He had the keys in his pocket. He forgot to put the keys back. Those keys were left to the door of the galley that literally opened the door, that inside of it was the binoculars for the captain to see the course. The reason the Titanic sank is not just because it hit an iceberg. It sank because it did not have the capacity, if you will, to foresee into the future, its destiny and course. And because the course was muddy and his vision was blurred, he ran into an iceberg that ultimately sank the Titanic. What I'm saying to you today is that oftentimes when we do not use our tools that are available to us, we set ourselves up in many respects to sink our own ministries because we do not use the tools like communication, information, and technology that help us see well beyond where we are, that has the ability to magnify where we are into our future to chart out our course. As we open up with this particular statement, it's critical for us to understand that this ministry really have a big purpose. That is not for our own selfish aggrandizement that this ministry should be used, but the big purpose is for us to continue to create new ways that we can carry forth the gospel of Jesus Christ, that individuals not only will be transformed, but saved, delivered, and set free by the compelling message that has already been written over 2,000 years ago. So that's the big purpose for CIT, is to carry forth, in many respects, the gospel of Jesus Christ. So in the same context, we're leading a church today, still in a world of a pandemic, which many predicted that the pandemic would be over now, and yet it's still raising its ugly head. And now we're dealing with monkeypox and other types of ailments that has entered into the conversation of this pandemic. So how do you lead a church in a pandemic world? Question is great. Not only in the pandemic, we're experiencing with medical pandemics, but we're also experiencing, in many respects, pandemic relative to racism, not just in these yet to be United States of America, but we see this in world view. If you remember just a few moments ago, when the war broke out and Russia was continuing to bomb, it was those individuals in Ukraine that denied people that's been kissed by nature's son to get on the actual trains and boats and the cars and the buses to get out of the respective areas. They denied them rights to get on the bus. And here it is. This is a world well beyond where we are. So how do you lead, and what kind of gospel? How do you communicate in a world that is plagued with multiple pandemics? In the same context, it is families who need to be reached in the context of ministry that have been siloed in the pandemic. One of the things that we often thirst for and glean for in these times is how do we connect with people and have meaningful connections and yet do ministry that is authentic and transformative. Families are looking for the church, if you will, to give examples on how to do that. In particular, when we look at this, there's young women, there's young men who are needing individuals who can help them see a greater path and a brighter future. So today, it is our goal to turn on some ideas to give you some of the hows and not just the whys of why we do what we do. It's critical that every leader, whether it be lay, whether it be clergy, whether it be the chair of a steward board or president of a trustee board, everyone at this level can participate in the communication information technology ministry. In that same context, the blessing, if you will, is for when we begin to work together for the common goal and purpose. Not only we are blessed, but those that we are trying to reach will become blessed. Let me give you these individual ideas around this. In the same age that we're experiencing Black Lives Matter, in the same age that we're experiencing Me Too movement, and same age that we're dealing with gender issues and people shaming bodies, whether they're small or large, we're dealing with times where people are sensitive because of the trauma that they've experienced. And if you don't understand anything else, you have to communicate a message of good news and hope to a people who have now experienced on a high level PTSD. That there's more people today than in years past that are suffering from PTSD, that are suffering from this level of trauma that has been a result of the conditions that we live in. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, every ministry must start with your vision. Before you dive into creating your own very localized communication information technology, you have to have vision. You cannot do anything without vision. You know what the scripture says, don't you? Without vision, the people will perish. So here's my definition of vision that I love. It's mine. I've coined it. I use it because it gives a pragmatic way for us to see vision. Vision is your ability to take a virtual tour of your future and come back and make it your primary and your modern day reality. Vision is the ability to take a virtual tour of your future and come back and make it your modern day reality. It's simply this. If we can use as an example, I'm just going to use a house, whether it be a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house, whatever your forever home is, that becomes the place of your vision. You don't own it yet. You haven't signed the papers yet. You haven't put in an offer yet, but yet you can see yourself walking through the door. You can see yourself sitting at the breakfast nook. You can see yourself climbing the stairs, or if it's all on one level, walking to the master bedroom and finding yourself getting ready to sleep away into your master bedroom. You can see yourself going outside, if you will, in the jacuzzi for some of those who are part of your vision. You can see yourself laying out in your lush lawn. Whatever that vision is, then now God has now given you the capacity to see where you ought to go. Now he's using you, watch this now, to put it into motion and make it your modern day reality. And I just want to give you this extra credit because I was preaching today and this just came to me. We got to stop asking and praying for God to give us a shovel, and we still praying for the hole to open up in the ground. In other words, we need to do the work ourselves. And when we do the work ourselves, the vision will become a reality. Here's 6 trends that I want to deal with very quickly, and then I'll open it up for questions and answers and move on so we can hear some of these great panelists today. I can't wait to hear the Reverend Dr. Andre Lloyd and the Reverend Dr. Zachary Mullins and others, Toya McQueen and Andrea Brayboy, all some bright minds, but I'm going to move out the way, but I just want to give you these quick things. Ministry, church, discipleship, and then reality, right? That all of us on some level have to experience ministry in this way. Ministry, which means to build up. The church is the called out community. The discipleship is how we form our discipline and become what God has called us to be. And then how we live that in our reality. Let me help you here because I'm getting ready to give you some tactical ways to do this in the context of social media. Number one, the majority of congregants will possibly no longer be in the sanctuary. All right. I'm grateful and thankful and blessed to be elected the 66th bishop of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. But I do have a testimony. Pre-pandemic, I saw in person, in reality, pre-pandemic, about 12 to 1,300 individuals when we merged into one service. Watch this now. Multiple days later, in fact, 35 days later, we went from seeing a crowd of individuals to no one in place. 2.5 years later, almost 3 years later, we're seeing a third of that crowd in that congregation. Now, where are the people? Have they left? Have the offerings dropped? No, they just simply moved from the pew that was in the stained glass building sanctuary to the pew that's in their own home. If you understand this, you have to switch and shift your mind to how do I communicate? So no longer is your responsibility as pastor just to the pew, but now you have to preach, teach, give pastoral care, visit the sick and shut in through a virtual context and complex matter. In other words, you begin to see yourself not just as a televangelist, but as the person that will use any means necessary to connect to the people that God has called you to serve. Hear me now. I believe that the days of mass crowds, especially when there's continuous breakouts, the days of mass crowds are over because people are still leery until this pandemic has subsided. So who you're going to minister to is the person that's in person and also the person which are many who are looking through the camera. Let me move on. Number 2. Ministry excellence will cause you to shift the focus from gathering to connecting. All right. We came from a motif. We were all trained. Many of us were trained in a motif and a modality that don't exist today. All of my seminary training, all the degrees that I have did not prepare me for this moment. However, God has given me capacity through leadership to shift from where I am to where God has called me. So no longer am I asking people to come to church, but I'm now asking the question, how can I connect to them? How can I connect to them? And when you begin to answer this question, then your ministry change from trying to swell in numbers to having the greatest impact. And let me say this, let me just give this as extra credit. It's never about the largeness of the number because sometimes some things are very large. And watch this now, they're toxic. Doesn't necessarily mean they're healthy. But if you move from 2 individuals to 3 that you're connecting with, God is pleased, the ministry is having impact, and you're moving on to the next place. So in order to do this, I want to move to number 3. Watch this now. Now, some pastors will try to fill auditoriums while others focus on fulfilling the mission. All right. I'm going to give a couple of examples of this. First of all, every pastor in this context or church or both and should have an Instagram page, should have a Facebook page, should have a Twitter, and should have TikTok at the bare least. Now, I'm not a TikToker. I'm watching TikTok, but I'm going to get there one day, Lord willing. Amen. But I'm not going to be like the bishop that's on, I don't know where he got consecrated, who's rolling around in skates. That's not my ministry. However, what you can understand from social media is that each one of them is a different type of window by which you connect to people. So, for example, if you're trying to have a 2-hour service and you're trying to make it go live on Instagram, I hate to help you or disappoint you, but ain't nobody looking on Instagram for 2 hours at anybody's service today. I don't care how many times you go live. You will not connect with anyone because Instagram is designed for pictures. Instagram is designed for scrolling. Instagram is designed for pressing hearts or putting quick comments or getting on the shade room. Did I say that? Yes, I did. Getting on the shade room and creating some conversation around a different image that comes up, whatever it may be. However, Facebook is designed for community. So that's why you can see on Instagram, you might have just 15 or 25 or 85 likes, but then you get on Facebook and you will have 1,400 comments because Facebook is designed, watch this now, for community. So that's the proper place for you to live stream your service. Oh, I forgot one thing to tell you. I said Instagram, I said Twitter, I said Facebook, and I said TikTok, but you also need to have a YouTube page. Can I give you this? This is extra credit. You might have 15 members in your church, but you might know 1,000 individuals. If you can get 1,000 individuals to sign up on YouTube, guess what? YouTube will give you residual funds. I have several friends. I have not made it there yet. I think we have about 600, maybe 700 people on YouTube. But I do have some friends that's on the other side of 1,000. And they say, Doc, check this out, Bishop. Look what God is doing. Every month I get, or every quarter, I get a check from YouTube because now YouTube can monetize what you're doing in ministry. Hear me today. YouTube is for content that is motion driven. Facebook is for community and for connecting. Instagram is for showing off the best images of yourself. And Twitter for those who have intellectual capacity to have the context in 140 characters or less to have a conversation through a social media meme. These memes these mediums in most cases are free. It don't cost you anything to sign up. You said, well, wait a minute, I'm too old. I can't do that. I don't know about no Facebook and no TikTok and all of that other stuff. Well, that might be your testimony, but there's somebody that's in your church that's on it all the time, even while you are preaching. So I'm encouraging you to connect with someone who is younger than you that can run your platforms for you so that you can stay connected. Hear me now. Every place I can see where all my members are based upon all of the platforms. A lot of them ain't in church, but a lot of them, watch this now, as I used to pastor, a lot of them, watch this now, are on all of those platforms doing their day-to-day life, but they are connected during the worship hour. So may I suggest to you that if you operate in this number 3, you have to operate in a focused manner to fulfill a mission. Services should be 90 minutes or less, preferably 60 to 75 minutes in this pandemic context. Do services that have a mission at the end. It costs you nothing during Christmas or before Christmas to get your members to buy some gym shoes. It don't have to be name brand shoes, but you can buy some gym shoes and have 200 to 300 shoes that your church connected lay and clergy together, raise for your community and give it to a local school or a local shelter that house youth to do ministry. That's just a quick ministry idea. There's a ministry idea that we're getting ready to do. It's not mine. I got it from another young pastor, but we're getting ready to do this concept similar called Gas on God. Here it is. We just raising $10 to $20 per member. And then we're going to go out into the community, connect with the local gas station, and watch this. Once we put the gas on the cart, People can come up in a community who was in need and can get a little gas in their tanks to fill up their gas. When you focus on mission, watch this now, the ministry impact will begin to change. Number 4, ministry excellent churches will see the internet and their buildings differently. You begin to see your buildings as resource centers, and you begin to see the internet as your new pulpit. That's good. Can I say that again? You begin to see your buildings as resource centers, and you'll begin to see the internet as your brand new pulpit. It takes nothing for you to do a sermon or message in a minute. You can get a camera, get a good light. Amen. You don't even have to have the fastest of phones. Just look into the camera like I'm doing right now. Give you a quick message and put that message out, and it can bless the people. And guess what? If the message is real good, I believe the department of CIT will probably post it on the CME Church's website, and then it began to bless everybody. Number five, and I can't see number 5. Content alone won't cut it. Community and connection will. All right. You can have some of the best content, but if you don't have no followers, ain't nobody seeing it. Right. So learn how to watch this now, internet missionaries. I just gave y'all a new term and I ain't getting paid for it. Internet missionaries. What are you talking about, Bishop? Well, I'm glad you asked. There are people that you know that have 15,000, 19,000 followers on their page. That there, some of you. I have a cousin, for example. She's Grandbaby Cakes. That's my little cousin. She has 260,000 people following her. And guess what? I'm waiting for the right opportunity for her to say, hey, cuz, I need you to put this on your page so then it can give us greater exposure. If you just get 3 to 4 individuals who are connected that has greater followers, you might not have none, but you can put the content out to make community and then do the connection. Last but not least, generational differences will become more clear than ever. However, this is an opportunity for you to excel where others will not. Don't run away from the generational differences, but I'm encouraging, watch this now, to highlight them, that you might pull all the generations together, that you might do the ministry the others are not willing to do. That's our presentation for this time. I'm going to press stop sharing. If there's any questions or concerns, I pray that this little quick talk will bless you. And if you have any questions or concerns in the chat or on Facebook, I'm not sure how CIT is doing it. I'm willing and able to answer and to assist.
Thank you, Bishop Haynes. We are monitoring Facebook as well as Zoom chat, and you're getting lots of compliments, mostly, and talkback shout outs for the wonderful, insightful ideas that you provided today. Yes, we are e-missionaries. Yes, we will have churches being promoted on our YouTube channel, which now has 1.48 subscribers. So we're ready to move into that monetization stage. Yes, indeed. No questions from Zoom. I don't see any in our Facebook postings, but great job. Great job. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, my bishop. Thank you so very much. Great presentation. It was awesome.
Thank you all. Appreciate you all having me.
It was awesome. That was great. Thank you so very much. I'm going to move now to Bishop Brown again to introduce, I think, Presiding Elder, Reverend Dr. Andre Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am. I want to join others in expressing our thanks to Bishop Haynes for an excellent presentation, very practical stuff that all of us can use and open our eyes in many ways. And thank you, my brother, for always sharing nuggets that we can use. I'm pleased to present Reverend Dr. Andre Lloyd, who is the new pastor at the historic Bethel Christian Methodist Episcopal Church in Macon, Georgia, which is his home church. and also presiding elder of the McRae-Moultrie-Brunswick District in the South Georgia region. I formerly pastored the Westside Church for a number of years, and we are delighted to have him share with us here this evening, this afternoon. Dr. Lord.
Amen. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. First of all, thank you to my bishop for introduction and the opportunity to continue to serve with him here in the 6th Episcopal District. I want to give a huge thank you to Dr. Teresa Duhart, General Secretary of this great department. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you. And then to Bishop Charlie Haynes. Dr. Duhart, I think we could close it on out. I think Bishop Haynes taught us very well this afternoon. So thank you, Bishop Haynes. I was writing and typing and snapping pictures so I could go back and refeast on that information that he shared with us. But one of the things that Bishop Haynes closed out with is what I want to start with. He talked about our churches. He talked about you being intergenerational. And that is one of the things that we may want to start with when you talk about information and when you talk about technology. As Bishop Haynes gave us a plethora of platforms by which you could push your message out on. One of the things that I discovered as I began to build our technology ministry at the Westside Community Church in Atlanta, and now getting ready to go into a $45,000 phase at the Bethel Church in Macon to upgrade us technology to push us out where we need to be. And that is one of the terms that we use. It's called KISS, keep it simple. Meaning, when you're looking to build your technology ministry, your technology should be so simple that my 5-year-old son should be able to know what to do, how to do it. And with my son, he probably knows how to do more. You know, he knows how to get to Amazon and buy stuff off Amazon. But you also want to make sure, as I traveled around to my churches on my district on yesterday, I met a lady who was 85 years old, and we discovered that even technology should be simple enough or easier enough for even an 85-year-old to be able to understand or to be able to access, be able to use it, be able to share it with someone. So one of the things that we created, one of the most proud things that we created in trying to keep it simple was being able to allow people to access our service with just one click of a button, okay? Versus having to jump through 9 hoops to be able to access your service. You'll be able to connect with people with just one click of the button. One of the things that we discovered, it was easy to do that because 90% of people now who live in homes no longer have home phones. Everybody has a cell phone, and if you're like me, you may leave your glasses on the table. You may leave your notebooks. You may leave your pen. But one of the things we discovered, people never leave their phone. In fact, the phone is sometimes glued to people's hand. I had a member tell me one time her daughter fell asleep with the phone in her hand. So everyone has their phone. So we utilize what we call Call 'em All. And what Call 'em All does is, for our older congregants who are more personable, it allowed me to use my voice to create a message to invite them to the various platforms by which we would be streaming Bible study, Sunday school, Thursday intercessory prayer, and Sunday service. We would give that information in a phone call. And that primarily was for our older members who we knew and would want to answer the phone. And they would say, my pastor called me and invited me to church. And then they would call somebody and tell somebody, you know, the pastor called and invited me to church. And then they would tell somebody, you know, so-and-so said the pastor called and invited, let's all go to church. Let's all figure out how to go. He told us to go to this website. That was primarily for our older members. Also with Call 'em All, whatever voice message you send, you also can send a text message to hundreds of people in a matter of seconds. We would simply send out the link via text message to everyone. And when the link will go out inviting you to church, we would ask that you would share the link. We would ask that you would share the link with someone. We'd ask that you would send it to someone, at least 2 or 3 other people in your phone. Just send the link to them. Boom. And when you send the link, all you do is click the button and it will go directly to our service. It'll go directly to the service. You may see the countdown. You may see the praise and worship team. You may see the announcement video, but it will go straight to our service. Call 'em All also allows you to send emails for those persons who continuously check their emails. You get a phone call, you get a text message, and you get an email. One of the things that we discovered, as Bishop Charlie Haynes stated in his presentation, we later discovered as we began to push out everything through that vehicle, we also realized that there was a mandate for us to follow up. So as soon as service would be over, you would receive another text message saying thank you. And thank you for attending our service. We want to see you again next Sunday. If you would like to sow into this ministry, because technology does cost, we'd ask that you would click one button and you'll be able to share with us. And if you share with us in this ministry, we can continue to bring this ministry, as I use as a tagline in my virtual service. Thank you for allowing me to invade your household, to invade your personal space for a moment. And so those are several ways to push out what you want and still be what we call multi-generational. Mission of our church at the Bethel Church in Macon, the mission of our church is to be a multi-generational church. We ask some of the older people, if you don't understand technology, if you don't know how to use technology, in the middle of service, we tell them, hey, raise your hand. One of our young people will come to you and they'll help you, they'll show you, and that way you can show other people. But one of the biggest things that you gotta remember as you create technology ministries, and that is simply keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Simple enough for a 5-year-old, simple enough for an 85-year-old. So, Dr. Duhart, I believe that is my time. And I, again, thank you for this opportunity. And I will entertain questions at this time.
We have a couple of questions, Dr. Lloyd, presiding Elder Lloyd. Persons would like to know the name of the app or the service that you were referring to that you use in your churches.
It's called Call 'em All. CALL. And then I think they actually changed the name of it because a lot of people only use it for text message. So it may even be Text 'em All. It's called Call 'em, CALL -EM -ALL. If I put it in the chat, will everyone be able to get it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like I said, and I believe over the course of time, what we discovered at the Westside Church is that they actually changed the name of it to Text 'em All, because a lot of people primarily used it for that purpose, for texting and emailing versus the calling.
Wonderful. I did put in the chat that our CIT Tech Talks are recorded live. Persons were asking for slides of the presentations. And so you can come back and view it on demand at the Facebook page that's listed in the chat, as well as our CME YouTube channel. And that's listed as well.
Can I offer another option
Yes.
for us to Dr. Duhart? One of the things, and I know for me personally, I'm a people's person. I know maybe a whole lot of people watching us virtually. Hey, everybody, how are you? But if you would like, you could share maybe my email information or how people can access me on Facebook, which is Andre Lloyd. On Instagram, it is Andre Lloyd 06 on Instagram if you want to follow me on Instagram. And if persons want to maybe have a personal conversation about some of the things that we use as far as technology, one of the biggest things that happened for us in Georgia was also we created our own live stream channel. And that was primarily, again, for our older people. It was just one click of a button. They could see our service every Sunday, all of the playbacks, all of the announcements, all of that. So if you would like to share my information for persons to reach out to me personally, I most definitely don't mind.
Thank you. In fact, Presiding Elder, if you don't mind, so I don't mistype anything, can you put it in the chat? Can you type it in the chat for us? Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to pivot back just a minute and go back to if Bishop Charlie Haynes is on. He may have stepped away, but there was a couple of questions that actually came from our own presiding elder, Reverend Dr. Reginald Walden. He asked about, let's see, small churches. And let's see. So how do you encourage smaller churches to get into the social media age?
If I could respond by being off camera, because I'm in the middle of transition, as you already know.
Yes, sir.
Smaller churches, larger churches. So the great equalizer of the pandemic is nobody got a big church anymore. Every church is small, right? So if you walk from the perspective that your church now is your camera, and that's again with the smartphone, with a MacBook Pro, a laptop, whatever medium, that becomes your church. Again, I want to encourage you to partner with some youth centers, some schools where they have departments where kids have to get credits to do social media work. There's so much out here that is free that you don't have to pay a dime for to get connected in this great world of media, social media ministry. So again, partner with a local school, a middle school, or a high school. Ask them who in your school would be willing to be an intern at our church. We need someone to be our social media coordinator, and partner with the school so that the children can get some kind of extracurricular credits. So that not only they're going to get a easy A, but they get something that goes to help them graduate from whether it be middle school, whether it be high school. There's, again, tons of free information out there. If you literally have $100, you can set up a studio. A tripod is $20. An eye ring or a light ring is about $25. Less than $100, you can set up a studio in your house. You ain't got to have a real green screen. Just go get some green paper from one of your arts and crafts stores. Put it up on the back of your wall, put some tape around it, and you're in business. So I just want to make sure that you don't become intimidated just because it says social media. Everybody can participate in this. And again, the pandemic has showed us that we are at the great equalizer. You might be in the building today, but you might be back at home tomorrow.
Dr. Duhart, and may I follow that up? Bishop Haynes is certainly right about the smaller churches being able to utilize things. And you can now probably go, one of the things I just discovered at the Bethel Church in Macon, if you go to your local cable provider or even some of these dish companies, they are offering free tools, free internet routers to churches and schools or even families. What we just discovered with my son is as long as you have a child in school, Cox Cable has to give you the highest internet speed package at the lowest price, as long as you have a child in school. And so you may want to even Google whatever your local cable network is. They have programs for churches and programs for schools where they're giving them internet routers giving them cable, fiber optic cable, and those sorts of things to make sure that even smaller churches, as Bishop Haynes is saying, or churches that are still operating in 1872 ministry can come up to 2022.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Dr. Lloyd. We appreciate your very insightful presentation and certainly the comments about how you can obtain internet is great. I know other cable providers might be Comcast, as you mentioned, Cox. As long as that child is receiving or the family has some association with the school and receiving free lunches, low income, they're providing reduced, and sometimes in certain areas, they may even have free access to the internet. Let me put a plug in to our CME members. We have hotspots available that you can purchase from us, from the CIT tech portal for $115. This can connect up to 15 to 16 computers in local churches, and it's all around the United States, even in some rural areas. You can just go out to, and I'll put in the chat, go to the official CME website, go to the top menu, go to the technology portal, click on mobile hotspots from Mobile Beacon, type in your zip code, see if it's available there. For $115 is an annual service that can connect computers in your local area. It just don't have to be in the churches. It could be in other areas that you may need them in. So just want to put a plug in for that. Again, thank you, Dr. Lloyd, for that excellent presentation. And we're moving on with our other presentations. And next will be Pastor Zachary Mullins. On the panel today, we have many young adults, few young adults, and we have one youth here. We want to make sure that if we're talking intergenerational, making sure that we're connecting through technology, we want to make sure that the various age groups are represented here, correct? Pastor Zachary Mullins, he's the senior pastor at Phillips, Hartford, Connecticut. We know him also as the chaplain of the Connectional Young Adult Ministry. I'm going to ask Pastor Mullins' colleague, presiding elder, Dr. Andre Lloyd, who I believe is the youngest presiding elder now in the CME Church, maybe still a young adult, if you can introduce Pastor Mullins. How about that? His bishop is not here, but I'm going to have his colleague to introduce.
Oh,
Thank
Lord.
you.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell Bishop Walker that you gave permission. But listen, thank you so much. I am, and indeed, my bishop took the mandate to be bold. I am one of the youngest. One of my brothers in the ministry, Reverend Teeks Washington, only allowed me to have that title for a few weeks, and then he became the youngest presiding elder in the church. But we're excited to serve in this capacity of being bold. But family, one of the things I love about the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church is that you can go anywhere and find somebody. And indeed, I am getting ready to introduce to you somebody who I've admired his ministry from afar. I've admired his creativity and his approach to ministry. And that is my friend and my brother, the pastor of the Phillips Church in Hartford, Connecticut, the Reverend soon-to-be Dr. Zachary Mullins. So you all receive this great preacher, great man of God.
Good evening, everyone. I had to pray because me and Dr. Lloyd have been friends for years. So I didn't know what he was going to say, Bishop Brown, but he did well in Jesus' name. and until today, I thought me and Dr. Duhart were good friends. And then she put me behind the innovative Dr. Bishop Brown, the intellectual and innovative Bishop Haynes, and then this brand new presiding elder who is just taking the city by force and by storm. So I don't know what I'm going to give you, but hopefully it's enough to make it so that you can stay awake for Reverend Kirkendall and the other awesome presenters on tonight. Let me just pause for a moment before I go up forth and thank Dr. Duhart for this opportunity, and also congratulate her as being one of the newest general officers of our church. Of course, your work went well beyond your election, and we thank God for your service to the church. Allow me on tonight to lift up for a few moments a subject around hybrid worship. Essentially, all that we talk about tonight, the foundation is and the focus is that we must be a hybrid church. Bishop Walker, in his absence, my bishop, and I thank God for him, often lifts up the reality that a church now has two front doors, an in-person door, front door, and a virtual front door. What that means is we have to cater our church to now two campuses, two ministries, two congregations. I'm reminded of a movie my son often watches called Inside Out. And in that movie, a young person named Riley is recently relocated to San Francisco. And the movie spends all of its time highlighting Riley's emotions, the inward parts of Riley, the parts of Riley that are often unseen. But even though we cannot see typically our emotions are the source and the lifeline of our existence. And so I dare say that when we look at worship and we look at those who worship online, we can't see them, but they're literally the lifeline of our congregation and our churches. Because now the reality is that most churches, as Bishop Haynes lifted up, see more people online than they see in the pew. So what does that mean for us? Our church has to focus on the unseen. Our church has to minister to the unseen. When we think about what it means to be a hybrid worship, a church, a hybrid ministry in such a time as this, I really just want to lift up three things and then allow us to continue and move forward on tonight. When we talk about hybrid worship in efficient and effective ways, the first thing we must do is level the worship field. We all know the saying, level the playing field. Well, with hybrid worship, I believe God is calling us to level the worship field. Oftentimes at Phillips Metropolitan Senior Church here in Hartford, Connecticut, we are not just hybrid in the sense that we offer persons the option to log in to worship, but we are hybrid in the sense that even in worship in person, portions of our worship are pre-recorded. And so therefore, when you enter into worship, your announcements at the beginning of worship is pre-recorded. The welcome video that I give, or the welcome statement that I give to the congregation is pre-recorded, and the welcome song that we lift up each Sunday is pre-recorded. Therefore, in that moment, whether you're watching online or you're in person, you're experiencing and you're seeing the same thing. That tool and that way of worship helps to bring both congregations to the same level. To say whether you're in your pajamas, drinking your coffee in your kitchen worshiping, or whether you have your church hat cocked to the side on the second row, you are experiencing the same level of worship. The entire church is a hybrid church. Also, sometimes even in worship, when we have guest speakers, I will pre-record the introduction of the guest speaker so that my AV team can add photographs that exemplify the ministry standards of the preacher that is getting ready to come forth. We must understand that every now and then, folk who watch online still feel a disconnect. And so the question we must bring to the table when we plan for worship is, how do we ensure that when folk log off, they feel just as empowered as when folk walk out of the sanctuary? And so as we plan hybrid worship, as we seek to be a hybrid church, don't just look at hybrid as an option of online or in person, but think of hybrid as an opportunity to equalize the worship experience. Another thing, after we level the worship the worship field, I also want to highlight that we must disciple the digital. We must disciple the digital. I think oftentimes when we have hybrid options, we believe that just turning the camera on is enough. But we must be intentional about going after those who are watching us digitally. Everyone who watches us online is not already a member. Therefore, we must gain a grasp on who is liking our worship experience, who is sharing our worship experience, who is viewing our worship experience. And watch this, where are the people who are viewing our worship experience? I am from Chicago, but my roots, Bishop Brown, are in central Mississippi. And my grandmother is from Canton, Mississippi. My grandfather from Pickens. My grandfather was an avid fisherman, and he always said there's two ways that you are a successful fisher. You go where the fish are, and you fish with bait that they like to eat. I'm gonna say it one more time. You go where the fish are, and you fish with bait that they like to eat. If we know that who we want to be a part of our congregation are on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, we've got to fish on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And if we understand that we're living in an age, presiding elder, where you got to keep it short and sweet, then we cannot fish on those social media platforms with elongated sermons, with boring opportunities of lifting up songs. Listen, y'all, we can't fish in an exciting, innovative world, being dry, being antiquated, but we've got to fish with what fish like to eat. We've got to go and be digital disciples. We've got to find folk where they are. And there was an age where tracts that said Jesus loves you works. But now we're in an age where the pastor needs to post on Facebook, you need Jesus and a counselor. Hello, somebody. And so therefore, we've got to level the worship field, helping people to understand and to feel on the same level, whether you're online or in person. We've got to be digital disciples. We've got to go fish where they are. We can't afford as a church to say they'll come to us. No, I hate to tell you, millennials won't come to you. They'll go to someone who's feeding them. They'll go to someone who's empowering them. We have to be digital disciples. And if I was preaching, I would say something like, I'll close with this one. We must be innovative enough to embrace officers who are off-site. Officers who are off-site. One of the biggest stretches for me, even as a millennial pastor, because those who know me know I have an old soul. I'm really 58 at heart. But I had just appointed a steward who was 21 to my steward board. I was excited. That was a groundbreaking move there at the Phillips Church, only for her to call a meeting with me and to let me know that she had to relocate to Georgia for 1 year. No, you can't have my member, Elder. She had to relocate to Georgia for 1 year for a work assignment. Immediately, her response to me was that she would have to rescind the acceptance of being a steward at the Phillips Church. In that meeting, I said I was downtrodden, I was sad, I was disappointed, only for God to speak to me in the next 24 hours and remind me that the giving at Phillips, 90% of giving at Phillips is received through PushPay and other digital ways of giving. If my giving is not predicated on people being in person, why must my stewards be in-person worshipers? If my giving is digital, my stewards can be persons across the country, and they can account for the giving and income of the church wherever they are. Literally, I have stewards that go to the finance room every week and they really only count and record for about 20 minutes, Bishop, because 90% of the giving is not in the basket, but 90% of the giving will be directly deposited on Monday morning. And so therefore, if we are going to truly be innovative and hybrid, our worshipers are not the only persons who can be hybrid, but perhaps we ought to stretch ourselves. And I don't really need to say perhaps, because literally I may be the only CME church in the country who now has a cyber steward, that literally she will be living in Georgia. But when it is her Sunday to account for the income of the church, all she has to do is log into Zoom with fellow stewards and account for the income that PushPay reports that we have received. And so therefore, as we strive to be hybrid, as we strive to empower the unseen persons in our congregation, we must level the worship field. Everybody ought to be included. We must be digital disciples. We've got to go fish where they are. And we must be open to embracing new and innovative ways of leadership, such as officers who are off-site. This is my time. Thank you, Dr. Duhart, for this moment.
Well, thank you, Pastor Zach, for that excellent presentation. Yes, we need to have on-site and digital leaders. Amen. Yes, indeed. Electronic giving is a must these days. The pandemic changed the way of life for many of us, not just working remotely, but also how we worship. And so we have to look at different opportunities, provide our members with different choices. You set it up just right. We need to be a hybrid church. We need to have definitely digital disciples. Yes, loved it. Were there any questions for Pastor Mullins?
Dr. Duhart, I'm not sure this is just for Dr. Mullins, but thank you, sir, again, for the excellent presentation. I have a pastor who I visited one Sunday morning who had a conference call in addition to in-person worship. What fascinated me about the experience was that the people on conference call were identified at the end of worship, and the people in worship identified themselves. I'm curious if any of you have, and there's of course a smaller congregation, which allowed for that interchange, but I thought about the accountability and the connectivity that took place in that worship experience. I'm just curious if any of you have seen anything or practiced any of that kind of thing. How do you keep people connected that's online and in person so that they are in conversation with each other?
I think one of the ways, Bishop, that you can do this, and this can be done in a variety of congregations according to your size, is that even in moments of prayer, when there's time for altar call, when persons are coming to the altar in person, there can be an invitation for those online to place their prayer requests in the chat. And what I've seen is that while those persons are coming and praying, you assign a preacher to list the prayer requests that are coming in the chat while they are coming. And so therefore, as they're typing them, watching you live on Facebook, there's a preacher saying, Sister so-and-so is asking that you pray for her son. Brother so-and-so is asking that you pray for a procedure. There in that moment, you're doing two things. One, you're leveling that worship playing field, but you're also helping in-person members to know who are watching online. And so therefore there's a connection. And what happened, or what I've seen happen, is that once they leave worship, they'll call and say, hey, we heard about your son. We heard about your procedure. And we just want you to know that I want you to know that I prayed for you while I was at the altar. That's a major example that I've seen that has worked and that has brought congregations closer together, even in the midst of worship.
Bishop Brown, I also want to state that here in the Pacific Northwest at our church, Miles Memorial, Pastor Chris Ruff, in the front of the church, on the right-hand side, there is a large screen monitor, and anyone can connect via Zoom. So the members can see the screen, the pastor can see the screen, and usually is welcoming the person. Good morning, Sister Milligan, or good morning, whomever is on there. So having that TV screen there at the front of the church where members can see who's also online, but they can also, it's an interactive session and they can be engaged in it as well. So that's another opportunity for churches to have that set up, so that it's hybrid mode where you're in service, but you also can watch the other persons who are watching the service live. Just wanted to send that out. Anything more for Pastor Mullins? Well, thank you so very much for being here. I really, truly appreciate it. All the way across East Coast. Thank you. Our next presenter is Toya McQueen. She provided us with a video. Everybody is bringing a little bit of something different to the table. And Toya is, she'll be introduced in the video, but she is the secretary of the Connectional Young Adult Ministry, missionary, secretary, assistant secretary of the Connectional Lay Ministry, very well connected in our church. So without further ado, I present Ms. Toya McQueen from the 4th Episcopal District. Can we show her video?
Toya Sharice Antoinette McQueen. Her parents are Mr. Selvian McQueen and Mrs. Teresa Moore McQueen. She attends New Hope CME Church in Columbus, Mississippi, under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Cornelia Naylor. Bishop Kenneth W. Carter serves as her presiding bishop. She is a student in the MA of Women's Leadership Program at Mississippi University for Women. She is also a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Toya is highly active with the Women's Missionary Society, serving as the Columbus Meridian District and Mississippi South Region Phyllis H. Bedford Secretary. She also serves as the Young Adult President, co-chair of the CIT Ministry and College Ministry for the Columbus Meridian District. She also serves as the Mississippi South Region Young Adult President as well. She also serves on the 4th Episcopal District CIT Ministry. Toya served as the Secretary for the Connectional Young Adult Ministry of the CME Church for the 2016 through 2021 administration. She was re-elected to serve as Secretary for the 2021 through 2024 administration. She also serves as the Connectional Lay Ministry Council Assistant Secretary. She loves technology, branding, and serving others.
Senior Bishop Lawrence L. Reddick III, to Bishop Sylvester Williams, Chair of the College, to the College of Bishops, General Officers, Judicial Council, Connectional Officers, Presiding Elders, Pastors, laity, missionaries, young adults, youth, and children. I greet you in the name of Jesus. I would just like to send a sincere thank you to our CIO, the General Secretary for the Communications and Information Technology Department, also known as, or not department, but ministry, also known as CIT, Dr. Teresa Duhart, Superwoman herself. Thank you so very much for this opportunity to present and to discuss my experiences connecting the generations using technology. So I serve as the Connection Young Adult Ministry Secretary for this administration, 2021-2024. And so I've also served in other various areas, such as with the Women's Missionary Council and societies more on the local level, and also with the Connectional Lake Council, serving as the Assistant Secretary. I've served in other capacities as well for other ministries also. And so one of the first things that I've always noted within my experience of trying to connect the generations using technology is to really figure out your audience. There are, of course, as you all know, a lot of differences between someone who is consuming technology at the age of 15 and the age of 65. However, I have noticed within my experience that though there are some differences, there are also a lot of similarities. I will take my mom and I, for example. My mom and I both love some great down-home singing, and we love vibrant colors as well. So using technology, whether that be graphic design work or even videos that you may post, pastors, with your message for the day, make it exciting. That is something that is universally well wanted and well liked. It's something that is exciting and includes some exciting music and includes some exciting colors within the branding. So definitely really figure out your audience always. That is the most important thing. So for me as a young adult, one of the other experiences that I've learned is that it really takes patience to try and connect the generations, because as you all know, the children that are growing up now, they are extremely advanced with technology. However, we have some of our more seasoned saints who are not as experienced with technology because they haven't had it their entire lives. So definitely for me, one of the things that you must do or must have in trying to connect generations is patience, because no one is going to get something the very first time. It's going to take multiple tries, multiple tests. Now, I'll give an example. For me, when I began working with my church, I'm a member of New Hope CME Church in Columbus, Mississippi, where my pastor is the Reverend Dr. Cornelia Naylor. This was when COVID first hit, so we had to try and navigate to a more virtual church option. So I tried to help us move towards using Zoom. I'd already used Zoom before then with the Connection Young Adult Ministry, the 2016-2021 administration under the leadership of the Reverend, soon to be Dr. Amina McIntyre. And so I've already had this experience, but of course I knew that my church, the parishioners in my church were not as experienced. So it took patience and it took a lot of sacrifice out of me to be able to set aside time 2 to 3 times a week to have everyone to practice getting on that Zoom and becoming comfortable. A lot of people don't have that type of patience, but you must in trying to connect the generations. Of course, as you all know, obviously it was a lot easier for those younger ones to understand what I was saying in reference to trying to get on Zoom. But for our older members and even my pastor, it took a moment. But I was okay with sacrificing my time, because at the end of the day, I certainly believe that God wants your time, talents, tithes. He wants it all. And so who am I? If God gives me another chance to live out an on-premise day, who am I to deny trying to serve his people? So definitely, again, making sure that you offer your talents to help bridge the gap and connect the two. So the largest thing I think with, again, going back to really figuring out your audience is understanding everyone's modes of communication. For my age group and younger, we prefer short, sweet, simple. for more of the older generations, they don't necessarily fit into that category. And so that's perfectly okay, because again, we're going to have patience in trying to use technology to connect the two. And so with anything, you have to compromise. There are some times where things can be short, sweet, and simple, using Twitter, using Instagram, but there are also other times where things might have to be a little bit longer, and that's when we'll use Facebook to try and connect the two and try to compromise as well. But definitely, I think if you can maneuver your content to be able to satisfy all of the generations within your area, within your church, that is so okay and so grand and so great. One of the things that I have learned, again, going back to understanding your audience and trying to trying to use technology to connect the two, is that there are a lot of similarities, as I stated earlier. One of the events that I was grateful to have hosted and led for the Connection Young Adult Ministry is our Black Love series, in which we invited some more seasoned couples to come on and share their love story, talk about different things that they have seen within their relationships, to try and help our younger generations and some of our older ones really enjoy the love story, really keep up hope that one day that they will find love, and to also provide some type of guidance for our young couples. Again, really understanding your audience and knowing what will and what can bring them together is always the biggest key. And it's going to take a lot of persistence and again, going back to the point of patience. So persistence and patience when trying to connect generations using technology is always the most important. And definitely knowing that you will never, ever always have the best route to the end goal. And that's okay. I think a lot of times, or sometimes, we have some disconnect because one generation or one person feels like they know more than the other generation. But I think if you have the patience and the understanding to know that you may or may not always have the best route to the end goal, and keep an open ear, there are a lot of technological advances that are happening each and every day. So right now, Google Docs may be in, but tomorrow there'll be something else. But because we are not as open-minded as we need to be, we will definitely miss those opportunities to learn and not only help advance those that we are serving using this technology, but missing the opportunity to advance ourselves. But at the end of the day, I know that it can be done. It has been very much a grand and grateful experience connecting generations across the connection using technology. And even in my work with the Women's Missionary Council under Dr. Duhart's esteemed guidance, it can be done. It can definitely be done. But again, definitely make sure that you know your audience, understand your audience forms of communication and forms of their preferred social media. Some people may like short, sweet, and simple. Others may prefer longer, more intricate, for lack of better terms, explanations of the content that they are viewing or what technology they may have. But if you just stay patient and remember the end goal is to serve others always, I know that you'll be all right. But again, thank you so very much, Dr. Duhart, for this opportunity. I do greatly appreciate you, and I pray that you all have a great time for the rest of this series. Bye.
If you would like to discuss further or need any assistance with anything, please contact Toya McQueen at siamsecretary@gmail.com.
Great. Well, we thank Toya for her insightful presentation as well. Everyone, as I had stated earlier, our presenters, they do a different perspective. And Toya's message really focused on persons understanding, knowing their audience, using the various type of tools available. Keep it short, sweet is what I gather from that. The same as what Pastor Dr. Lloyd was mentioning as well. So thanks, Toya. Now we'll have a presentation from Reverend Andrea Brayboy from the 9th Episcopal District. I am going to ask her bishop, my bishop, Bishop Charlie Haynes Jr., if he's still on, to introduce her. And he may have gone off, and I will try to fill in the gap. Reverend Andrea Brayboy hails from the 9th Episcopal District. And she is the 9th District Administrator, as well as the social media coordinator. Many times she's on our tech team for many of our connectional events. I'll let Reverend Brayboy tell you more about her, but we are grateful for her service, as well as her service in her local church in Riverside, California. And without further ado, I will ask Reverend Brayboy to make her presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me.
Here she is. Let me replace the spotlight.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon. I'm so grateful to be here to spend this time with you and to share this space. And since protocol's already been established, I do want to acknowledge our dear sweet sister, Dr. Teresa Duhart, the new General Secretary of CIT and our CIO. I'm really excited for where we're going and what God's going to do. I also want to, give props to my bishop of the Next Level 9th, Bishop Charlie Haynes Jr. I'm just excited for what God's doing over here on the West Coast. And I'm excited about what God's doing across the nation and throughout the entire connection. I'm going to talk to you briefly on, it's going to be multifaceted. So I hope that everything kind of fills in some gaps to what's already been said. But we keep hearing this term, digital season, or we're in this, a time of digital usage. But what I found in working with our church, not only the local church at Amos Temple, but also working on the regional level as well as the district level, is that I had to present technology in a way to make it appear that it's been present the whole time, because it truly has. So I'm going to show my screen here and show a portion of a few presentations that I've done. So give me a second while I pull this up. Okay. So as we know, we faced coronavirus. We had to shut down about March of 2022. In-person services stopped. We've since moved into a hybrid service, as Pastor Mullen already talked about. But we found ourselves unprepared. And we didn't have online platforms. We didn't have a social media presence. Many of our churches didn't have virtual financial giving systems. And at that time, it didn't quite make sense. Why? Why were we unprepared for something like this? And so this is where the gaps start getting filled. There is a history of technology in the church. So when you know the history and you take the survey from a high level point of view and look at how the church has inspired technology and the uses of it, technology and evangelism, you realize that we missed the ball somewhere. So let's go back to the beginning, the simple printing press, right? That was the first technological leap to spread Christianity, because prior to the printing press, Bibles were handwritten by scribes. They were able to mass produce Bibles with a machine. So they used technology to mass produce the word and then get the Bible out there to the masses. Let's move on from there. The radio. It provided a way for rural areas to stay connected to their faith. Religious leaders, however, viewed the radio as frivolous and even evil, but evangelism was made easier. And you started to see more people get into a greater understanding of the Lord through the airwaves. Let's take this a little bit further. We started having tent revivals. The tent revivals were on the radio. My mom tells me stories of times where certain evangelists would come to town, and you may not be able to make it to the tent revival, but you could hear it on the radio, and that same power, the same Holy Spirit was delivered into their homes through the radio. So this is not anything new. This is not something that we have never used before. It's not something that's foreign to us. It's something that we've had incorporated into our evangelism toolbox for many years. Then we moved into television, and it became the primary form of entertainment in the 60s and the 70s, but yet evangelism was made even easier. We had the introduction of the televangelist and being able to meet the masses and to be able to see and to hear the word of God go forth. Now, people have their different opinions about what was actually going on, the doctrines that were reaching the airwave. But the point of the matter is that the church was using it to move the message forward. Why? Because it made everything easier. But going back, let's go back to the World Wide Web. So now we're here. We're in this sphere and this space where we have the web, and it's able to spread information immediately. It's at your fingertips, as was previously said. Everybody's with their phone. And it provides new resources for pastors and congregants, which we've all learned now 2 years into the pandemic. So why should we embrace it? Because it makes evangelism easier. Just as what was previously said, it's no longer about people coming to us, it's about us going to them. It's about us using the tools, finding the fish, using the right bait, and then teaching them about the ways and knowledge of God and getting them to accept Jesus Christ. What I learned in my region is if I filled in the gaps generationally for those that were pushing back on the use of technology, they started to realize that this is a tool that God created that he's been using for a long time. Just because we're in a season where we're forced to use it now doesn't mean that it just all of a sudden appeared in 2020, 2021. We've been moving in this direction for a mighty long time. And so once they accepted that, it became a lot easier to develop tools and strategies to meet them where they were at, just as Sister McQueen shared, in order to get past that learning curve and teach them some things. So what I want to show you here really quick is our book of discipline. And it's funny because Dr. Duhart laughs whenever I show this particular passage. But it's found in the book of discipline. We're looking at paragraph 1130, which is in regards to our Regional Board of Christian Education. And it talks about the regional board or the Board of Christian Education. And here, if you look down beginning at 1131.1, it names the 9 committees that comprise the regional BOCE. And as you see, subcommittee number 9 is the Committee of Information Technology. Our own Connectional Usher President Emeritus, Diana Winton, assigned me as the chair of the Committee of Information Technology in 2019. And I didn't know at the time even what to do. She knew that I always had a video camera. She knew I always had a regular camera on me and I documented things. But I didn't know that coronavirus was on its way. So when we started to shut down, I had another partner at Lewis Metropolitan named Brother Roger Culberson, and we had to get together and we had to say, okay, how are we going to take this role and make it work on the benefit of the region? And so we got together, chair and co-chair, and we pulled in a very strong regional board in Southern California. We invited Dr. Duhart, she was gracious to come to our meetings when she was able, and we pushed our pastors to have at least one member represented on this committee. And out of our 25 churches, I believe we had about 20 to 21 that were well represented. And we were able to meet monthly. We met monthly. We talked about issues, barriers, shared ideas, gave tech advice, tech specs. We created a document that shared specs for different levels of communication that you may need depending on the vision of your pastor. And through that, we were able to find support. That team grew. It even became ecumenical. We have Baptist churches that have come. We have had Kojic churches that have come. They've tuned in because there's no space such as that. And so we were able to meet the needs of our churches, get them online, get them the support that they needed, do trainings, come in and do assessments for purchases, for computer specs, number of cameras, sit with the pastor, hear the vision, and be able to write out a recommendation on what the purchases should be. And so we've toured all over our region to build strength in that. And it's supported by Dr. Duhart's work in providing those tech resources through the portal. We fully support that portal. We've led our churches to not only buy domains, but to use the Microsoft 365 in order to get those email addresses up, to have a more professional look moving forward, get those websites up. That's our next struggle this year. That's our goal, is to get those websites up. But I just want to encourage everybody to really work together, become that connectional church, and create a system that can help support your churches in your region. If something goes wrong, they know that they can call on us. If they need to make changes, they know that they can call on us. And if they need to make upgrades based on the budget, they trust us to provide them a recommendation that'll meet their needs. Second of all, our committee's been able to handle those trainings that Sister McQueen talked about earlier. I'm going to show you one of the trainings that we helped to develop for a lay ministry. Give me 1 second. And in this was specifically towards seniors. And we talked about social media. We talked about the importance and the use of social media and the differentiation between each platform. I think that's where the confusion comes into play. And what I found in this, which was beautiful, is a way for me to connect as an administrator to those that are learning, is to try to get the social media usage beyond this, just the church, but to show them how it can impact their lives. For an example, when we did this social media training, I'm going to skip through here a little bit. We talked about all the platforms, what to do and how to use it. We talked about Instagram, right? As Bishop Haynes said before, Facebook is community. And it's really unfair for us to require somebody to join a community that they're really not going to engage in. That's not their thing. So we talked about Instagram. And I said, many of you have grandchildren that are on Instagram. They're sharing pictures. You like to look at pictures. Matter of fact, you love to look at pictures. It would be great for you to get on Instagram and to add your grandchildren. It's less volatile. They're not saying too much per se. It's a little bit safer depending on how you use it, but you could then engage with your family in ways that you never engaged before. They really liked that idea, and by the time we finished that, we had a lot of them up and running on Instagram. Surprisingly, I know that we've talked about TikTok, and we've talked about it being the younger generation. I, for one, am not on TikTok, but I'm finding that many of my members, my senior members, seasoned members, are on TikTok. It's short, it's funny, it's cute, they get a laugh. And I'm looking like, wow, you guys are using TikTok? Oh yeah, look at this video. And so you never know who's on you never know who's on there, and it's hard to put everybody in a distinct bucket. But there are connections being made through social media that I think is important. The other thing that I share with people, I showed this as an example of what Instagram actually looked like. We talked about YouTube. On the side of the content creator, or on the side of the media ministry leader, if this is you, I want to piggyback off of what Dr. Lloyd said, which was key. Your job is to remove barriers. We don't want to put barriers in the way of our congregants, which make it harder for them to access the church and or services. What we found initially, we were in place. We had a YouTube page and we had a Facebook page. We started back in 2018, 2019, prior to the pandemic. But the YouTube page was not used at all. Most of the people that did attend online, the few, followed on Facebook because they were Facebook individuals. Sorry, my screen advanced. They were Facebook individuals, and that was just their natural tendency to go to that platform. What we found as the pandemic prolonged is that it was easier for the seniors to get on YouTube because many of them already have smart TVs. They had smart TVs. They have children, they have grandchildren that have given them smart TVs, and they're able to sit in the comfort of their couch, pick up that remote control, and access church. Now we have 3 times as many viewers on YouTube than we do on Facebook. That is the platform of choice by our actually by our entire membership group, which I found interesting. So whenever we put a church online, I share that with them. It doesn't matter. It's not just a CME church. It could be the Baptist church. It could, again, this is just God's kingdom business, right? YouTube is an easier platform. You do not have to have an account. You can just click a link and instantly access it, as was previously mentioned, and you can get it on a larger screen. Also, for those, we had several members go into long-term care facilities during the pandemic or rehab facilities as they're aging. I was able to do an electronics drive and program old tablets and larger phones and things to go straight to YouTube to the church's page when they turned it on. That's been a great help. I'll show up at the hospital with the staff. They'll show me their login. I'll log it into their Wi-Fi, hand it to the nurse, even in the COVID protocols, only be able to see somebody from a window, but they could walk it in and I could see that person get it out the window and see them light up because they're reconnected with the church again. So these are ways that you're able to keep the generations connected and involved no matter where they're at. And we're seeing that although it was hard at the beginning and although it took a lot of pushing, now people's hearts have become softer and they are seeing value in what we're offering. And that's changing things such as budgets. I know some budgets were discussed earlier, asking things at church conference, getting those approvals. Again, they're seeing value in what we're offering. That value also increases in the use of the media ministry, again, for things outside of church. I have hosted 90th birthday parties, 85th birthday parties, anniversary parties, those situations where they're limited and families can't travel. I've been able to bring my camera, set up, and have grandchildren and children from all over the world be seen on their TV as that person blows out their candle and be able to sing happy birthday to them. So we've been able to build connections with families, let them see their grandchildren, let them see that this is not just about church. This is about staying connected as a human. This is about finding support. This is about experiencing love. And so with that being said, that's the end of my presentation here. Thank you, Dr. Duhart.
Oh, thank you, Reverend Brayboy. Thank you for being being here, being part of our tech support, for all your tech savvy ideas. I appreciate so much your presentation. Again, each presenter is giving a little different twist or spin on connecting the generations. And certainly thank you for your great perspective. And certainly as you continue to grow the social media ministry for the 9th District, that's a tough task, but you're up for the task. And we thank you for that. Thank you so very much. Our last presenter is a youth that has fought his way and is here at the table for the Connectional Church. Here to present Reverend Cameron Kuykendall is the director of the Connectional Youth Ministry, Reverend Sarita Collins, who is herself. She is not a stranger to the church. She served twice as our Connectional Young Adult Ministry president. So Reverend Sarita Collins, please introduce our next presenter, one of your youth VPs.
Good evening, family. I am excited to be here with you this evening. I get the pleasure of introducing one of the most amazing young people that we have in our denomination. I'm telling you, Cameron Kuykendall is somebody's young person who is making his way. And I always talk about inviting young people to the table. Well, Cameron is one of those young people. He brought his chair to the big table and he is making a difference in our denomination. And I'm so excited. Cameron is 16 years old. He has an old soul like Pastor Zach, but he is amazing. He's a straight A student. He is the president of his SGA. So he is making moves in the church, in the community, and in school. And I'm so excited. He's a member of Mount Olive CME Church in Memphis, Tennessee, where he serves as a social media manager. So again, making bold moves. He's also the youth vice president from the 1st Episcopal District on the Connectional Youth Ministry. And amongst that team, he is our vice president of our VPs. But I am so excited that Cameron has this opportunity to share here at the big table, representing younger people who are, this is where they live. They were born with laptops. They were born with tablets and phones, right? But they are making moves. And I'm so excited that Cameron has an opportunity to share ministry, something that he's passionate about, and be able to connect the generations. Buckle your seats, because Cameron is Cameron, and Cameron is going to represent. And I'm so excited that he has this opportunity. Cameron, I am so proud of you. He is also, recently, he's an ordained local deacon who is making moves. Cameron, I think, preaches more than most people that I know, right? Every week, Cameron is doing his thing, but some of the things that Cameron has done that really makes him stand out. He does student leadership. I think it's the athlete. I don't know what it is, but he does something. But Cameron started his own ministry. Cameron has a website. Most churches and pastors don't have a website. Cameron does a Bible study for teens where more adults are on there than teens. I mean, Cameron is doing some amazing things, but I'm proud of him. And I'm glad that he has this opportunity to not only represent the Connection Youth Ministry, but to represent young people who are making moves as long as we invite them to the table. So Cameron, do what you do always. I love you, and I'm so incredibly proud of you.
Thank you, Reverend Sarita Collins /boss. I appreciate you so much. Love you so much as well. Y'all know that's my boss. It's job security. Y'all know about it. Y'all know about it. Thank you so much to Dr. Teresa Duhart. In the very email that she sent me regarding the CIT Tech Talk, a part of it said, I want you to have a seat at the table. So I'm so grateful and thankful to Dr. Teresa Duhart, our General Secretary of the Department of Communication and Information Technology, and our CIO of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I want to say thank you as well to the panelists that have come. I mean, I don't even know what to say no more. and I think Bishop Haynes is getting back at me. When we were at General Conference, my former pastor was running for bishop. I said, Dr. Haynes, you'll be 65th. And he said I jinxed him because he became 66. So I think he got me back because he stole some points that I was going to talk about, but I'm still going to talk about them, all right? So today I want to talk to you all simply from this title, Media is a Lit Ministry. All right, that's all there is to it. Media is a lit ministry. Let me just go through some stats real quick. Let me drop some stats on y'all. Look, did you know that 6 out of every 10 people are on social media? Including you, because that's the only way you're watching us unless you're on Zoom. 6 out of 10 people, 60% of our world, billions of people are on social media. Can I take it a step further, you all? Because let's look at this chart right here. I pulled this chart offline. This is a chart representing the percentage of U.S. teenagers who use the following social media platforms at least once a month. Now, granted, we use them every day. But you see, 84% of all teens in the United States use Instagram at least once a month. Use Snapchat once a month. TikTok once a month, 80%, 69%. I really want to focus on two. I want to focus on Instagram specifically, and I also want to focus on TikTok because I believe the CME church could blow up. Your local churches could blow up virtually and in person if we start utilizing Instagram and TikTok. Now, I heard Reverend Clay Evans say, I've got a testimony, and my testimony today, and Reverend CC did say I'm old, so my testimony today is my screen time. This is a screenshot of my screen time. You can view this on your iPhones. I don't know about Droids, but at least on iPhones, they give you a report every single week. Here it is. Last week, and I was busy, so the numbers probably would have been higher. But last week, I spent 25 hours and 7 minutes on social media throughout the entire week. That's a day. I spent an entire day scrolling on Facebook, on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Twitter, on TikTok. I spent a whole day just on social media last week. That's crazy, right? Crazy to think that we spend an entire day just scrolling up and down social media. Well, let me also let you look at this. This is also a stat from my screen time showing I spent 6 hours, 35 minutes on Facebook. Now, I'm always on Facebook, and some of my generation on Facebook, but most of my generation uses Instagram and TikTok. As you can see, I spent nearly 4 hours on Instagram last week. What am I trying to say by showing you all these stats? Is that we are on social media all the time. We are on social media 25/8, 24/7. We are literally always scrolling on social media. I've even found myself a habit sometimes on the way to school. Guess what I'm doing? Scrolling on social media. And mom be like, you need to connect with me and talk with me. I'm like, I'm sorry. And so then I talk with mom. Or sometimes even I just find myself, even at church, sometimes just picking up my phone, scrolling on social media because we are always on social media. Although it's a bad thing in one sense, it's really a good thing for the church in another sense. Let me show you some more graphics. Last week, these are my notification averages. Every notification that came through my phone, I had 410 last week. Let's look at the number specifically. That was the average. From Instagram, I had 350 plus notifications alone. Twitter, 200, over 200. Facebook, over 100. Snapchat, over 100. YouTube, over 50. What am I trying to communicate to you all? Pastors, leaders, ministry leaders, AV ministry leaders, social media ministry leaders. Post, 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 because it will get around. Because every time somebody posts something and I'm following them, it's going to show up on Facebook most definitely. It'll show up on Instagram every now and then, but it's definitely going to show up on Facebook. So when you're on these platforms, keep posting. Keep posting, because consistency is key. And I want you all to recognize that we are going to get the notification. I find myself always scrolling through notifications and I see Facebook said XYZ posted this, or Instagram say, look at who posted this in a while. It all helps to build our ministry, specifically with youth. Like I said, some youth use Facebook, but mainly we're on Instagram and on TikTok. I encourage you all, get on Instagram, get on TikTok. Oh, can I share a testimony? Another testimony. Reverend CC was talking about my ministry group, Cameron Kirkendall Ministries. That's all virtual. I don't have not one in-person member because it's not a church. It's a ministry online geared towards teens. Well, I made a TikTok video promoting my June Bible study series called God is Bigger. And within 2 days, received 800 views. Within 3 days, received 1,100 views, all on TikTok. I only have about 145 TikTok followers because I'm not on there dancing or shaking, whatever. But as you can see, the word still gets around. And for me to have 1,100 views in a matter of 3 days is remarkable. And our churches could be the same. It could be you posting the word of God, posting your dancing ministry, posting this or that, posting your children's choir, whatever the case may be. They're going to see it on TikTok. They can share it on TikTok, or they're going to see it on Instagram and they can share it on Instagram. I shared a preaching clip of mine on Instagram and it received about 700 views just about, or 500 to 700 views in a matter of a couple of days. We really can reach a lot of people in a little bit of time. But it's all about being on the right platforms at the right time. All right, let's keep it pushing. This is data strictly from Mount Olive. I took 1 month when I did a presentation. That at Mount Olive via Facebook, we reached 10,705 people in 1 month. That's more than can fit in the building. And on Instagram, we reached over 1,200 in 1 month. Again, probably more that could safely fit in the building. The reason I'm saying this is because our reach can go so much farther. It can be so much broader and so bigger, but we've got to get online. We've got to get on Instagram. We've got to get on TikTok. I would hope and pray you already on Facebook, but if you're not there, start there first. Get on Facebook first, then you get on YouTube, then you get on Instagram and TikTok. And as Bishop Charlie Haynes talked about earlier, it's all about knowing what each platform needs to be used for. And that's going to be key as you promote your ministry as well. Now, the reason I say media is a lit ministry, if you on Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube, just type lit in the chat. Just type lit, L-I-T, type lit in the chat, because lit stands for learning it together. That's what this is about, learning it together. Can I go ahead and keep on testifying here? Because at Mount Olive, I lead the social media ministry. By the grace of God, my former pastor appointed me to be over the social media ministry, and I'm grateful for it. But it's not just me. An older member in his 70s works with me as well, Brother Paul Thomas. And then another congregant of the church, Dr. Mark Winnett Hintz, works with us as well. And see, that's a 40, 50-year-old, a 70-year-old, a 16-year-old, and another youth, a 14-year-old, all on one media team. The good news is when we're learning it together, they teach me stuff I don't know, and I teach them stuff they don't know. That's the good news. That's how we build our media ministries that understand children and youth. We're not here to replace your job. We're not. We know you've been serving faithfully at the doors of the Lord's church for X amount of years, and that's so great. But here's the thing about it. We've got to pass the baton and train the next set of leaders. So that's why it's so important for us to learn together, to work together as we build media ministry, specifically using youth on your media ministry. So I've got a couple of tips for you in terms of involving youth in media ministry. My first one is allow youth to lead this ministry. Amen. And let me say this, we are more than capable. Let me tell you this as well. Leading this ministry, you will have them in the house in worship doing AV on Sunday morning. That's true. But I can say 95% of my job at Mount Olive is done right from where I'm sitting right now. Because I use platforms, I use Facebook, I use the Instagram, I post and I make the content on our platforms right from home. And you can do it at any time from anywhere. That's why it's important to get allowing the youth to lead this ministry. We have a lot of great ideas, a lot of great talents. Some of those ideas are going to be out the box. Amen. You can ask Reverend CC. We got a bunch of them. A lot of those ideas are going to be out of the box. They're going to be interesting. You might say, oh, you really want to do that? But trust and believe it's going to expand your media ministry going forward. All right. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but each church should have a Facebook Instagram and YouTube page. Let me also add TikTok. Instagram and TikTok specifically is what I'm talking about today, representing the youth. Now, me personally, I use TikTok every now and again, but most of my generation, just ask your grandchildren how many drafts they got on TikTok. And if they say 300, they use TikTok every day. What do I mean by that? A lot of times, young ladies and young men of this generation, they make TikTok videos and they just save them and they pile up and they make TikTok videos all the time. There are some people have 15,000 and 100,000, all these followers on TikTok. That's crazy. You can reach that many people at one time. But it's good news when it comes to advancing God's kingdom and preaching the same gospel we've already been preaching, but preaching it another way, as Reverend Andrea Brayboy talked about before me. So it is important that each church has not only Facebook, not only YouTube, but now we got to start exploring. We got to start having a little water walking faith. Get on Instagram, get on TikTok. That's where your children and youth are. They're on TikTok and they're on Instagram. And I didn't even plan to say this, but I let the Holy Spirit use me. Even when you think about Instagram and think about TikTok, when you think about all these companies that track your data, one of the data points these companies track is your location. And so when you post, and they already know you from Memphis, they're going to spread your video to not only those around the world, but they're going to spread your video to those in your city. So if I'm in Memphis, they're going to spread my video to Memphis and the entire world, which allows me to connect with people I didn't even know that were right in my community that could come into the doors of my local church. That's why it's important that we utilize all our platforms, not just to broaden our reach to the whole wide world, but to broaden our reach even in our own communities. Lastly, and finally, we've got to be open and optimistic. This is a big one. Again, we're not trying to replace you. Senior Saints, we love you, we appreciate you, and we want to learn from you. We're not trying to replace you. We just want to work with you. Remember, lit means learning it together. And that's the big part of this whole thing. That what I may not know, you can teach me. And what you may not know, I can teach you. It's all about learning it and working it together. So as we continue to expand media ministry, as we make graphics, as we make eye-popping graphics, as we make posts on social media, as we use certain taglines, as we use certain hashtags, we got to be open and optimistic. Another thing, and I didn't even put this in the presentation, as Bishop Haynes said, this is extra credit right here. Use popular hashtags. Because guess what? People follow those hashtags, especially on Instagram. Now, I did some a little out the box, church folk. Y'all pray for me. For my Bible study series back in, what was this, August? Yeah, in this month, I did F and F. Now, a lady from Memphis made the song, F-R-E-E blank blank free. You might know the song. But I turned that around and said F-R-E-E forgiven and favored, but I still use the hashtag F and F. And it allowed me to get more likes, more comments, and more shares on the post simply because I'm using a hashtag that everybody is using in Memphis and across the country. We've got to do the right things, be on the right platforms, post the right things. And of course, the best of all, involve children and youth, specifically youth, in our media ministry. At this time, I do want to put my email on the screen, ckirkendall@thecmechurch.org. Thank you all for allowing me to present this afternoon. If you all do have any questions for me, we'll entertain them now. And thank you so much, Dr. Duhart, for this opportunity.
Reverend Cameron, we do have a question in here, and we may have to get you in a class. First, let me thank Reverend Cameron for making the flyer for today's CIT Tech Talk. But we do have a question from Lane Tabernacle Church. At some point, we need a class on these graphics that these young people are using. And I just wanted to throw it out to you. Just wanted to throw it out to you.
Oh, yes. Well, I will say, yes, that would be something nice, Dr. Duhart, to consider doing. And let me say this, you do not have to be an expert to do graphic design. You really don't. You really don't. There are plenty of templates out there. I will give you a couple of website suggestions, postermywall.com and then canva.com. If I minimize this screen here, wait a minute, you'll see what I use. I use Canva. I use Canva to make this very presentation. So what I learned is, even in my journey with graphic design, I really started on PowerPoint, then posted my wall, then Canva. I learned it's a learning process. You get better as you go on. If you just keep playing with it, if you keep using it, you eventually get better. You'll notice progress if you look 1 year before, like I've done before. I look at my graphics a year ago, and then I look at my graphics today, and I still see progress. So canva.com, postingmywall.com are just a couple of resources you can use. And Dr. Duhart and I will talk in terms of if we can do a graphic design class. That sounds nice, Dr. Duhart. That sounds real nice.
Great, great. Well, again, thank you, Reverend Cameron,
Thank you. And,
all of the work that you've done. You got something else?
One more thing. I told y'all, job security, my boss, right? I did want to make sure I did mention the Connectional Youth Ministry, which I do represent at all times. CMECYM.org. A part of what the Connectional Ministry, Youth Ministry does is provide resources for local churches and a connectional platform as well, for how you can involve youth in tech ministries and how you can reach youth using technological platforms such as Nearpod and such as Nearpod and Kahoot and things of that nature that will reach us youth. So please visit cmecym.org to learn more information. And if you want to connect with me, you can follow me on Facebook at Cameron Kirkendall. I won't give you my IG. I got to leave that little. I got to leave it for the young. I got to leave it for the young.
Thank you again. Thank you so much again. Reverend Cameron, we appreciate having you here, and definitely media is a lit ministry. Every church should have what? A Facebook, Instagram, YouTube page. Be open, be optimistic, right? Lit is learning it together. So excellent presentation. All of our presenters have done such a great job. I like TikTok too. I like to see what's going on. There's a lot of ministries that are out there. There's, for me, I like keto diets. And of course, I want to see what the latest dances are, okay? So I like TikTok as well. So we've had a great first CIT Tech Talk. I hope that everyone has enjoyed our first event. As you know, CIT oversees communication and information technology for the CME Church. And our main focuses are to connect, unite, and share within and beyond the walls of the Connectional Church. And it was important for our first CIT Tech Talk to connect, unite, and share with our members today. I want to thank all of our guests for providing their insights on the topic, intergenerational connections through technology. Thank you to our presenters and his being absent, Bishop Walker, who wanted to be here, but not, traveling, Bishop Brown, the vice chair of CIT, Bishop Haynes, presiding elder, Dr. Lloyd, Pastor Mullins, Sister Toya McQueen, Reverend Andrea Brayboy, and certainly Reverend Cameron Kirkendall. I want to end this session with just a couple of slides to kind of wrap everything up together on this event. I am going to share my screen and just wrap up on the intergenerational connections using technology. Now, I do want to say that everyone touched on the various age groups. And I just want to share this one slide with everyone so we can kind of be all on the same page together, looking at the various type of generations. Baby boomers were born between 46 and 64, right? So they were the pioneers of adopting those home computers, but reluctant about adopting newer technologies. Now, I work in the world of academia, right? And so there were various research and companies that were looking at various ways to target or market the various generations. So in each of the various generations, they all have their little niche of what they like to do. And I wanted to share this with the audience. So baby boomers, again, 46 to 64, born in those ages, in that time frame. Generation X, born 65 to 1976. Now, they primarily utilize email and telephone to communicate. Gen Xers are spending more time online, but they're using their smartphones to access apps, social media, and the internet. And millennials are the Generation Y, were born between 77 and 1996, and they primarily use text messaging and social media. Millennials, they were that first generation to grow up with social media and smartphones and continue to be the generation with the broadest usage of technology. And then finally, persons like our Reverend Cameron, they're in that generation, the Z, the iGen, or Centennials, born 1996 and later.
The best generation.
Primarily utilize handheld communication devices and accessories to communicate. In fact, they're on messaging apps 57% of the time. They're using their smartphones. Reverend Kokendog showed his stats, his screen time, and he had quite a lot of screen time there, right? So I just wanted to just put it all in perspective here about the details of each of the generations and the behaviors that they may have in regard to technology, adopting the various, technologies, the distinct differences. And you could kind of see, that the broad span that you're trying to connect all of these different generations. So I just wanted to leave you with that. And so finally, let me just stop my sharing here. I want to also thank Mrs. Sharon Doss, Reverend Pansy Washington, and again, Reverend Brayboy for being part of our tech team today. Our next CIT Tech Talk will be scheduled for Saturday, September the 24th. This topic will be cybersecurity best practices. Understand the risk and protect yourself and your church. I have two quick announcements to make. First, remember that there are lots of technology discounts available for our local CME churches and connectional leaders and members if you need hardware, software, including a free Microsoft 365 license. Visit the cmechurch.org and click on Technology Portal at the top of every menu. Second, look for an announcement soon regarding the new, bold, exciting, forward-looking CME website. The new design looks amazing, and we'll be rolling that out pretty soon. Well, that's it. Thanks again for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day and blessed week. God bless you. Again, the CIT Tech Talk is recorded online. You can view on demand on our Facebook page, and that was posted in the chat. You can also view it on the CME YouTube channel. And you're always available to send comments to us at CIO@thecmechurch.org. Again, CIO@thecmechurch.org. I'll put it in the chat. God bless you. Thank you again for tuning in.